So it's been written that each year, some 60 million people run in the US. 60 million people. And we all certainly don't look like this. So I've always wondered, as a guy who carries around some extra weight, should I be running and training differently because of that fact? So I called up Carl Leivers. He's a former college running coach who now coaches people of all ages and abilities. And one of the first things he said was not to buy into the hype of what a runner should look like.
I don't think that there's any truth to the idea that there's a specific way that a runner should look. Just like advertising has convinced us of all sorts of things of how things should look and how we should approach life, that's not a reflection of real life. Anybody that's been to a race knows that runners come in all shapes and sizes, and there is certainly no correlation between shape and size and performance level either.
So I asked the question, how should my weight affect how I train? And I don't know, I think I was expecting something about form or cadence or foot strike, something like that, something run coachy, right? Well, in actuality, he said the big difference isn't the running, it's the not running. It's all about the recovery.
When you run, you put about 2.5 times your body weight as far as force on each foot strike. And that's a lot of wear and tear on your bones. There's a lot of wear and tear on your joints and your connective tissue. The more weight you're carrying, the more impact you're going to be putting on those joints. And so you do need a little bit more recovery time than someone who sort of fits the ideal of what the runner's body type should be.
So he gives this as an example. Let's say you're training for a marathon. And yes, I realize they're all canceled, but let's just pretend for a second that you were training for a marathon. Each week you have your training plan, there's a long run in it. Well, let's just say that long run got longer every single week. Each week it's the longest run you've done, followed by the longest run you've done, followed by the longest run you've done. Coach Carl says that's a recipe for disaster.
That idea of giving yourself weekends off from long runs is more important when you do have a heavier body type or a heavier build. And so if it's marathon training, again, I might do a long run and then 2 weekends without a longer run before we go long again, in order to make sure that we get that recovery. Because those runs where you're out there for literally hours during marathon training, or the longest run of your week, even if you're not training for a marathon, obviously those are the ones that are going to have the most pounding and create the most wear and tear, and therefore the most need for recovery time.
All right, so it's not exactly rocket science, but it's something to think about as you run and train. If you found it useful or helpful or interesting, let me know, like, comment, blah, 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 you know the deal. Because honestly, this whole YouTube thing, it's still a big experiment, so I'd be curious to hear what you think. By the way, Coach Carl, he's on YouTube. He also has a website. I have a link to both below. You'll be hearing more from him and other experts and interesting people in the coming weeks as I try and get answers to questions that I've always had about this sport that I have really grown to love. So anyway, until then, until next time, I'll see you.